Hi there, and welcome back to Peasy English, the podcast where we make learning English simple, fun, and focused on what really matters, your confidence and communication. I'm Christ, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. Whether you're on your lunch break, commuting, or just relaxing, thanks for choosing to spend this time with me. Today's topic is something every English learner deals with at some point: nervousness. Especially when it comes to speaking. Have you ever felt your heart beat faster before saying something in English? Have you stayed quiet in class, or skipped a chance to practice because you felt too shy, too unsure, or too afraid of making a mistake? If that sounds familiar, don't worry. You're not alone. Nervousness is completely normal. But here's the truth: you don't need to wait until you feel confident to speak. You need to speak, even when you're nervous. Because speaking, especially when you're scared, is exactly how you become confident. So if you're ready to take a deep breath and push past that fear, let's dive into today's episode. Because your voice deserves to be heard, nervous or not. Let's get started. Have you ever had something to say in English, but the words just got stuck? Your heart starts beating faster. You know what you want to say, but suddenly your mouth doesn't cooperate. You're afraid you'll say it wrong. That people will judge you. That you'll look silly. So instead of speaking, you stay quiet. If you've ever felt that way, I want you to know something important: you are not alone. Nervousness is one of the most common feelings English learners experience, especially when they start speaking out loud. And it's not because your English is bad. It's because your brain is trying to protect you from making a mistake. From embarrassment. From being vulnerable. But here's the truth: you don't need to wait for confidence to speak. Speaking is how you build confidence. Let that sink in for a moment. You might think you need to feel ready first. That you need more vocabulary, better grammar, perfect pronunciation. But real growth doesn't happen after you've learned everything. It happens when you use what you know now, even if your voice is shaking. And yes, your voice might shake. Your hands might tremble. You might forget a word. But every time you speak anyway, you send a message to yourself: I'm brave enough to try. And that message is powerful. So let's talk about that bravery. It doesn't always look big or loud. Sometimes, it's as small as saying hello when you really want to look away. Sometimes, it's asking someone to repeat themselves instead of pretending you understood. Sometimes, it's joining a conversation even if you only understand half of it. These moments might seem small from the outside, but inside, they're huge. They're you, choosing courage over comfort. And that choice, it changes everything. Because every time you speak, even with nerves, even with mistakes, you're not just practicing English, you're training your brain. You're showing it: hey, I survived that. It wasn't perfect, but I did it. And the next time you speak, it feels just a little bit easier. You build a kind of strength that no grammar book can teach, the strength to keep going even when it's hard. And this strength doesn't come from being fearless. It comes from being willing. Willing to try. Willing to speak. Willing to be imperfect and keep showing up anyway. Let's keep building that kind of strength, one word at a time. And the beautiful thing is, once you start showing up, even in those nervous moments, you realize something: most people aren't judging you. In fact, many are impressed. They see your effort. They hear your accent, your pauses, your searching for the right word silence, and they don't hear failure. They hear bravery. Because speaking another language, even imperfectly, is something many people wish they could do but never try. And here's another truth: the people who matter, the ones worth talking to, will not care if your grammar is off or if you forget a word. What they'll care about is you, your voice, your ideas, your presence. And when they see you trying, they'll lean in, not back away. They'll help you, smile at you, support you. That's how communication works. It's not about perfection. It's about connection. And every time you choose to speak, even if your voice shakes, you're opening the door to that connection. You're letting the world in, and you're letting your English grow beyond the page, the app, or the classroom. So let's keep going. Because this is the kind of practice that makes you not only a better English speaker, but a braver human being. Now, I know what you might be thinking, that sounds great, but it's still scary. And yes, it is. Nerves don't disappear overnight. Confidence isn't something you just get one day and then never lose. It's something you build, moment by moment, just like a muscle. Think about the first time you rode a bike. You didn't feel confident. You probably wobbled. Maybe you fell. But the more you tried, the more your body learned what to do. Speaking English is the same. Your brain is learning to balance, to process, to move quickly. It takes time. It takes repetition. And yes, it takes falling a few times, too. But here's the secret most learners forget: confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after. You don't wait until you feel brave to speak. You speak, and then you become brave. You speak, and you prove to yourself that you can. Even if it's just one sentence. Even if it's just one word. So if you've been waiting to feel confident before you speak, maybe it's time to flip the script. Start small. Say hello to someone. Order your coffee in English. Leave a voice message to a friend. Join that group chat. One word, one sentence, one step at a time. And every time you do, you're teaching your brain, see, I can handle this. Let's talk more about how you can practice speaking in real life, without pressure, without fear, in the next part. So, how do you actually start speaking without feeling overwhelmed? The key is to lower the pressure. You don't need a perfect accent. You don't need complicated vocabulary. You just need a safe space to try. And sometimes, that space can be as simple as talking to yourself. Yes, really. Try describing your day out loud while you're brushing your teeth. Talk to your pet. Pretend you're giving directions to someone. These little moments train your brain to think in English, without the fear of someone judging you. And if you're ready for more, record yourself. No one else has to hear it, just you. Pick a topic and speak for 1 minute. Then play it back. You'll hear the mistakes, sure, but you'll also hear your progress. You'll notice the words you do know, the sentences you can build. And over time, those recordings become powerful proof that you're growing. Remember, it's not about speaking perfectly, it's about showing up. Again and again. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when you're nervous. Because every word you speak is a win. Every sentence is a step forward. Let's keep going in the next part and talk about how to stay motivated when nerves try to take over. Now, here's the tricky part: staying motivated, especially when it feels easier to stay quiet. It's completely normal to have days when your confidence disappears. When your mouth feels heavy, your mind goes blank, and you think, maybe I'll try again tomorrow. But if you wait for the perfect day, when you're not nervous, when you know all the right words, when your voice sounds just right, that day might never come. Instead, start celebrating small wins. Did you say hello to someone today in English? That counts. Did you practice one sentence out loud before bed? That matters. Did you try, even a little bit, even if your voice shook? That's huge. Because progress doesn't come from doing everything perfectly. It comes from showing up consistently, even when you're scared. Especially when you're scared. The more you speak, the more your brain learns, it's okay. I can do this. Nervousness becomes familiarity. Fear turns into habit. And slowly, that voice inside you that says, "I'm not good enough," starts to fade. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is changing the way you talk to yourself. Instead of saying, "I'm so bad at this," try saying, "I'm learning." Instead of thinking, "Everyone will laugh at me," remind yourself, "Most people are kind, and many of them are learners too." Your words shape your mindset. And your mindset shapes your experience. If you speak with fear, your brain focuses on the fear. But if you speak with kindness, even to yourself, your brain starts to feel safe. You start to take more chances. You begin to grow not just in English, but in courage, too. So the next time your heart races before speaking, pause. Breathe. And gently tell yourself, it's okay to be nervous. I'm doing something brave. Because you are. Every word you speak, even with trembling hands, is proof that you are choosing growth over comfort. And that choice. That's what makes you unstoppable. Over time, the fear you feel now will fade, not because fear disappears, but because you'll learn to move forward with it. Speaking won't always feel so scary. There will come a day when you'll raise your hand in class, or join a conversation, or share your thoughts in English without thinking twice. And when that moment comes, you'll realize it wasn't a sudden leap, it was the result of every nervous word you dared to speak before. But until then, let's be clear, you don't have to wait until you're confident to begin. Confidence is built by doing the very thing that scares you. So speak. Speak even if your voice shakes. Speak even if you forget a word. Speak even if your grammar isn't perfect. You are not here to impress. You're here to express. Your message matters more than your mistakes. And the world doesn't need you to be perfect, it just needs you to be real. And the beautiful thing is, every time you speak, even when it's uncomfortable, you are proving something powerful to yourself. You're proving that you can act with courage. That you're not waiting for the perfect moment. That you're building your skills not just through study, but through experience. And little by little, those small, shaky conversations become strong foundations. You grow, not because you avoided fear, but because you moved through it. Speaking, especially when you're nervous, is one of the bravest things you can do as a learner. It's where growth happens. It's where your English becomes yours, not just something you study, but something you use, something you live. And yes, your voice might shake. You might forget a word. You might even say something completely wrong. But those moments don't mean you failed. They mean you're trying. They mean you're doing the work. You're putting yourself in real situations, not just memorizing vocabulary at your desk, but facing the unpredictability of real-life communication. That's not weakness. That's strength. You know, there's a quiet power in the people who speak even when they're unsure. Not the loudest voice in the room. Not the one with perfect grammar. But the one who keeps showing up. The one who asks questions, even if their accent is strong. The one who joins the conversation, even if their sentences aren't perfect. That's the kind of speaker who grows the fastest. Why? Because they're not waiting to be fearless, they're building confidence through action. And with every sentence you say, no matter how simple, no matter how messy, you're sending your brain a message: this is safe. I can do this. Your nervous system learns. Your heart settles. Your words come faster. And slowly, what once made you anxious starts to feel normal. Maybe even exciting. Imagine a year from now. 2 years. You look back, and you barely remember the nervousness. What you do remember is that one moment when you raised your hand in class. Or introduced yourself at an event. Or answered a question, even though your heart was pounding. That moment will stick with you, not because it was perfect, but because it was brave. You see, fluency doesn't come from hiding. It comes from those imperfect, courageous, human moments. From being willing to speak before you're ready. From being kind to yourself when it's hard. From choosing growth over fear again and again. And that choice. You can make it every day. Not just when you feel confident. But especially when you don't. And maybe right now, you're thinking, that sounds good, but it's hard for me. I just freeze when I try to speak. My brain goes blank. And I get it, that frozen feeling is so real. It's not about knowing the vocabulary or memorizing a script. It's about pressure. The pressure to sound right. To not embarrass yourself. To impress others, or at least not disappoint them. But here's something powerful to remember, no one is judging you as harshly as you're judging yourself. Most people, especially those who speak English as a first language, are not focused on your mistakes. They're not counting how many times you say, or like, or pause in the middle of a sentence. They're just trying to connect. They're listening to your message, not grading your grammar. And honestly, many of them admire your effort more than you think. We often forget how vulnerable it is to use a second language. It's like standing in front of a crowd without your usual tools, your humor, your full vocabulary, your natural rhythm. You feel exposed. But you're not weak because of that. You're brave. You're creative. You're learning to express yourself with the pieces you have, and that's a kind of strength many people never develop. You might not feel fluent yet. You might stumble, get frustrated, or wish you could say more. But let's not ignore how far you've already come. Remember when you couldn't understand anything in a podcast? And now, you're listening to this one. That's growth. Or when you were scared to speak even one sentence, and now, you try. Even when it's hard. That's huge. Confidence doesn't arrive all at once. It grows like a small flame. Every time you speak, even if you're nervous, even if you make mistakes, you're adding fuel to that fire. You're building trust in yourself. You're proving that you can handle the awkward pauses, the moments of confusion, the grammar slips. And you survive them. You learn from them. And then you try again. That's how confidence is built, through doing, not just thinking. And while it's tempting to wait until you feel ready, here's the truth, if you keep waiting, you might wait forever. Readiness comes after action. Courage comes through the trying. And here's something else to consider, the people you admire, the ones who seem so fluent, confident, and natural in English. They've had their nervous moments too. They didn't wake up one day magically able to speak without fear. They've stumbled through conversations. They've forgotten words mid-sentence. They've had awkward silences and misunderstood jokes. You're not behind, you're just in your process. Think about a child learning their first language. They don't worry about grammar. They don't hesitate because they might say something wrong. They try. They say things imperfectly. Sometimes it's adorable, sometimes it's a little confusing, but no one laughs at them. We encourage them. We cheer them on. We know they're learning. Why don't we do that for ourselves? Why do we expect ourselves to speak perfectly when we're still learning? Why do we treat mistakes like failures instead of signs that we're in motion, that we're growing? If you've ever stopped yourself from speaking because you were afraid of looking silly, let me offer you this truth: speaking imperfectly is still speaking. And every time you speak, even if your words are broken, even if your voice shakes, you're winning. You're doing the exact thing you were afraid of. That is courage in action. And it's not just about courage, it's about practice. The more you speak, the more your brain starts building connections. Words come faster. Sentences feel smoother. You begin to trust that even if you forget a word, you can find another one. Even if you say something wrong, you can laugh, fix it, and move on. Speaking isn't a test, it's a tool. It's how we learn. So maybe today, you don't have to speak for 20 minutes straight. Maybe you just say hello to someone. Maybe you record a short voice note to yourself. Maybe you answer a question in your head before you say it out loud. These small steps matter. They build the muscle of confidence. They remind you that you can do it, even if it's not perfect yet. Because perfection isn't the goal. Connection is. Being understood. Expressing yourself. Sharing your thoughts. That's what communication is all about. And here's the part we forget: your voice, your story, your thoughts, they deserve to be heard, even if they come out with an accent or a pause or a little mistake. That doesn't make your English less valuable. It makes it real. It makes it yours. Now let's talk about one of the biggest lies nervous learners tell themselves: I'll speak when I'm ready. It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Like you're just waiting for the right time, when your grammar is sharper, your vocabulary is bigger, your pronunciation is better. But let me ask you this: when exactly is ready? Because here's what usually happens: the longer you wait, the more pressure you put on yourself to be perfect when you finally speak. And the more pressure there is, the scarier it feels. So you delay again. You convince yourself you just need more practice, more listening, more reading, more studying, before you dare open your mouth. But speaking is not the reward for being ready. Speaking is how you get ready. Imagine someone learning to swim. They can read all the books, watch all the videos, and memorize all the techniques, but unless they get into the water, they'll never feel truly prepared. Language works the same way. You can build a strong foundation, but confidence comes from doing. From trying. From getting in the water, even if it's just the shallow end. And I know, it's scary. Your heart beats faster. You're afraid of forgetting words, of being misunderstood, of making a fool of yourself. But the truth is, most people are not judging you the way you imagine. In fact, most people admire anyone who's brave enough to speak a new language. They see the effort. They see the courage. And often, they want to help. Have you ever heard someone speak your native language with an accent? Did you laugh at them? Or did you feel a little spark of respect? Maybe even joy. That's how people often feel about you. You're trying. You're learning. That deserves kindness, from others, and especially from yourself. You might say the wrong word sometimes. You might freeze in the middle of a sentence. You might forget something simple. And none of that means you're failing. In fact, every time that happens and you keep going anyway, you are winning. You are becoming the kind of person who speaks even when it's hard, and that is exactly how fluency is built. Fluency isn't about speaking without fear. It's about speaking while feeling fear, and still choosing to try. That's where the power is. That's where the transformation happens. So maybe you're not ready. But you're brave. And that matters more. Here's something else you need to hear. Speaking when you're nervous isn't just about practicing English, it's about building trust with yourself. Every time you open your mouth, even if your voice shakes, you're telling yourself, I'm allowed to try. I don't need to be perfect to participate. My thoughts matter. My voice matters. That self-trust doesn't just help your English. It helps you, in job interviews, in relationships, in your own mind. You're showing up for yourself. You're choosing to express, not impress. And that choice changes everything, because the goal is not just to speak better English. The goal is to be free, to express your ideas, ask for help, share a joke, say thank you, tell your story. The goal is connection. And connection doesn't need perfection, it needs presence. Your presence. And here's the truth, the more you speak, the less nervous you'll feel over time. Not because the fear magically disappears, but because you'll become stronger than it. You'll remember all the times you spoke while scared, and nothing terrible happened. People understood. People smiled. You survived. And then one day, without realizing it, you'll say something out loud in English, clearly, confidently, naturally, and you'll stop and think, wow. That used to terrify me. And now, I just did it. That moment, that quiet, powerful moment, is your reward. And it's coming, if you keep going. So if your hands shake, let them shake. If your voice cracks, let it crack. But speak anyway. Speak with fear. Speak with pride. Speak with the courage to be seen exactly as you are, a learner, a trier, a brave human doing something hard. Because speaking while nervous is not a weakness. It's one of the strongest, most beautiful things you'll ever do. And that's the heart of today's message. Speaking when you're nervous isn't just a language skill, it's an act of self-belief. Every time you do it, you're rewriting the story you tell yourself about what you're capable of. You're not waiting to be perfect. You're showing up as you are, and that's powerful. So today, I want you to try. Just one sentence. One moment of courage. Even if it's small. Even if it feels messy. Because that one moment could change how you see yourself tomorrow. Thanks for spending this time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, take a second to smile, because you've just taken another step forward. And you didn't wait for perfect. You just did it. If you're enjoying these episodes, don't forget to follow the podcast so you never miss a daily boost of motivation and support. And if you know someone who needs a little reminder that it's okay to speak while nervous, feel free to share this episode with them. Until next time, keep learning, keep speaking, and most importantly, keep being kind to yourself. I'm Christ, and this is Easy Peasy English, where your voice matters, exactly as it is. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.